Hi, and welcome to Code Corner. This is a video series we do at Mayfield Renewables to talk about codes and standards as they relate to the solar and solar plus storage industries. Today, going to continue talking about International Fire Code. Specifically, in this video, going to focus in on what the maximum allowable quantities are. And we've done videos previously talking about size and separation, things like that, so helping kind of set the stage. And in this is so 1207.5.2 is the specific section that we're talking about, and maximum allowable quantities is referring to the amount of energy storage we can have in specific locations. And so quantities being the kilowatt hours, that's how we're going to be able to measure these, and we're just setting up these maximum values that we can use or that we can have in order to and for firefighters, for making the it's really about safety and trying to keep the the locations as safe as possible in regards to the amount of storage capacity that we have. So the section, so again, 1207.5, if you haven't seen the previous videos, that's all about electrochemical ESS protection, and you can see there's a number of subsections within there. We've talked about size and separation on previous videos. We have maximum allowable quantities, and this is really an important area of the code that you need to apply and understand what these are in order to make sure that you are installing your systems properly, and making sure that there aren't potential issues down the line if there are ever any fire events or anything like that, whether they are not related to the energy storage systems. It's important to kind of have these baseline rules established and that we're complying with. With regards to the maximum allowable quantities, we have this requirement, or we have a table that we're about to look at here. And so you can see the 1207.5.2, the charging language here talks about that we have in these specific areas, basically we're not going to be able to exceed the allowable quantities that are in table 1207.5. So this will be the base of what we're going to talk about, and then of course we have to be able to talk about, well, what if we go above those values? So there are provisions for that, there are allowances for that, but first off, let's look at what that base value is. And in this case, we're looking at that table, and lithium ion being the focus of the energy storage industry right now, we have 600 kilowatt hours. So the value is, if you exceed 600 kilowatt hours in any given area, then that would kind of trigger you into a larger set of rules. So if you're 600 kilowatt hours or less, then you meet the maximum allowable quantity values, and then you just basically continue on looking at the other code sections, making sure that you're meeting all of those specific requirements. But the 600 kilowatt hours is kind of that magic threshold for our lithium ion systems. You can see in this table there's other technologies. There's specific types of batteries that are included in here, and so we have varying levels of kilowatt hours that you can have. And then the other thing that you'll notice, lithium ion it's just a blanket statement. It's just all lithium ion is what's included in here. So it doesn't really matter on the subchemistry, and this is going to be what we're charged with using in those situations. So just to kind of look at it in terms of what are we installing, how would we think about this? And so we're using containerized systems, or sometimes we're using either within a container, or where you have different cabinets or different things like that. And so in this case, we're showing a couple 300 kilowatt hour units that are being installed in close proximity and within one area. So if you have a couple units that are greater than 300 kilowatt hours, you're putting those together, that's going to exceed the 600 kilowatt hours in the area. And so that would be something, now you're exceeding that maximum allowable quantity, and so it's going to put you into the exceptions, and I'll show you those here in a minute, but that's going to be how we need to look at that. Another way you can look at it is a singular unit that's greater than 600 kilowatt hours, and so of course that is going to automatically put you into that or exceeding that 1207.5 table. And so you're going to have to be looking at what those extra set of rules and requirements are. So let's look at those real quick, kind of these exceptions. So again, there's that charging language saying you can't exceed 1207.5 or the table 1207.5 except in these specific situations. And this number one is probably going to be the biggest one for us. So where approved by the fire code official in these locations that exceeds that amount, it shall be permitted based on a hazard mitigation analysis in accordance with 1207.1.6 and large-scale fire testing complying with 1.7. Both topics we're going to be diving into deeper in other videos, so if this is of interest for you, take a look at that, keep an eye out for those. We will have those available. But really what code is saying here is, yes, you can go greater than 600 kilowatt hours. You need to do this HMA, this hazard mitigation analysis, and you have to have large-scale fire testing that the fire code official approves. So it's the and statement there is pretty big. You need to do both of those together in order to present documentation to the fire code official saying that they will approve this installation of greater than 600 kilowatt hours. There's a second one there for lead acid. I'm going to kind of skip past that. But there is also another one for dedicated use buildings. So if you have a dedicated use building and you meet the 1207.7.1 requirements, that is another potential exception path for you in terms of this HMA. Again, number one is really going to be by and large where we're seeing most of these going with the HMA and the large scale fire test. All right, so I'm going to stop there on maximum allowable quantities, and we have other courses. I would encourage you to take a look at our website. We have lots of information, lots of courses out there on various topics such as this, getting into NFPA 855, for example, National Electrical Code. So if there are other topics that you're looking for some education, some classes on, I encourage you to take a look at those. And then, as always, if you have questions or comments for us on this or other videos, or if there's topics that you would like to see us dive into further, love to hear from you. Here's our contact information, and send us a message and let us know how we can help you. And as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you on a next Code Corner.